We are Saponi, the Indians of Person County. We are located in the north central part of North Carolina and the south central part of Virginia, known as the High Plains. In the 1700s at Fort Christiana, Virginia, we were known as the honestest and bravest, according to William Byrd II. We are honorable men who protected the fort and are highly regarded. Sometimes we are called the Christian Indians. Our skills as hunters and gatherers and our character make us great traders and middlemen among the colonies. To this day, our life of faith and the preservation of our culture through traditions, education, unity, and crafts honors our heritage and makes our future sure.
I'm the chief of the Saponi, and I'm connected to probably 5 out of 7 families that are within the Sappony tribes. Creating the walking sticks it's very important that you go out and find the correct stick. The one if you get a little in the area where there's been a cut over, then you get new trees coming up. Most time you're going to find vines growing as well. And when you do that, that's when you will find sticks like this one. Of course, this was a little short vine and it didn't create a lot of activity there. This was another one that did the same thing, but this one right here had a little bit more to it. So therefore, the tree itself was like this, and the vine grows up. Most people know that. That stick will tell you what it wants you to do. And that's the challenge that I find in the walking sticks is, do I leave this or do I cut this out? Do I cut that out? Do I leave this? And then once you get to working with it, it'll come to you as to what you need to do, and that's the challenge. And how tall do you want it? How long do you want it? You know, a little lady, she would love to take something like this, where you get over here, you got a big old 300-pound man, you want something like this. So therefore, you know, it just depends on who's getting them as to what size you get and how you prepare it. 92% of the walking sticks has a story behind it, and the other 8% is for your walking. It first started out with what I call a walking cane. My grandfather, he walked with a walking cane. And I said, I gotta get me a stick so I can give it to my grandfather so he'll have something to walk with. Well, and as time went on, I'd seen these pretty, trees out in the woods with the vine on it. And then I thought, well, hey, I can go from a walking cane to a walking stick. And that was really what inspired me, is to find one that my grandfather could use to help himself walk along. So, yeah. It's just in the culture of the American Indian to, I say, live off the land. Well, I think it's very, very important to pass on the skills to the generation, because if you don't pass it on, you lose it. And not only that, it's just like the Saponi language. It was lost along the way. As a matter of fact, it was forbidden to be used, speaking your language. And now, you know, we wish we had it. We wish it would have been passed on down to us. I don't have no fancy tools. I just have a plain old pocket knife that I use, everyday knife, to do my carving with, the skin in it, and, you know, taking the bark off and that kind of thing. So it's really hands-on versus sticking in a machine, pushing a button. This one right here really gets down into the grooves really good. For instance, when you like right so, you get down in there to get that out. It comes down, gets in, and gets it out. Really, really good. And then, of course, you can just flip it over on the flip side, and when you get to taking this off, if that's what you choose to do. Now, this one tells me I need to do that. So, and then when you get down here, make sure you keep that thumb out of your way under the stick so that you won't cut yourself. And there you go. Come right on down and out and on out. If you come down through here, now I don't need nothing there, but I want to take this much out, leave part of it. So in doing so, this little knife is very good for that. Then you stick, make sure you make the right connections on the other end. Come back right here. There you go. Now, once you get that, the little knife comes right in here, and you can stop it. You can control it much better than you can the big knife. And get down to where the pretty colors of the wood is. For what it's worth to me, it's a lot. And what it's worth to the tribal members, they say, okay, I want a walking stick, so I can tell my family, tell my children that, hey, this come from the chief, this is one of the walking sticks that he made. I always wanted to find a stick that I could create a snake head on it after it swirled around. And I did that once, and the snake crawled away, so I no longer have that stick, because and when I say that, someone wanted, pretty bad. So I can always find another one somewhere at some point in time. I would inspire my younger generation, the youth of the tribe, to come and sit in on a session of this type of art that would be beneficial to them going forward. The most satisfying part is when I finish up with it, job well done. That's what I want out of that stick.
And the women I can remember my mom having a quilting in the homes. They did it, invite ladies in, and you quilted, all morning. They take turns going to different people's houses quilting.
Come to the end of your thread, and I always wet my finger because I can't make a knot without it. And you pull it through and pull it down tight. You got your knot. I got my needle under the bottom section for where I'm going to put my first stitch. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it isn't. And then pull it through. And like my sister-in-law said, you take and pull your knot through the lining, and then you start off. You always got your thumb under the thing, stick your finger, you know it's coming through.
If you see blood,
you don't wipe it on the quilt.
You gone too far?
Me and you gonna have a fight right here with this gentleman doing it.
Did you get it?
Then you just keep quilting until you get to where you want to stop.
My mom used to make clothes for us, and they'd have scraps left over.
And then turn around
and make a quilt out of it.
Well, now when my sister-in-law passed away, I've taken all of her t-shirts, but she very seldom ever wore anything except a t-shirt after she got cancer the first time. And I had enough t-shirts that I made every one of her children a quilt.
I had a sister that passed away. She was an invalid. She never was able to walk. And after she passed away, my mom took all of it. She used to make her dresses. And she took...
It's okay. She took all of her dresses and made them into a quilt. Who's got the quilt now?
James, Kurt's son. And he brought it when Mom passed away, and we put it on display on her casket. That was on her casket. Was the one that she had made her fields dresses. After Mama was gone, we were all over at their house, and of course, everybody wanted Mama's quilts.
Yeah.
The daughters, the granddaughters,
Yeah.
the great granddaughters.
I got one right back here that was made for my wedding. The green one. Sheila's grandmama made it. And she sent Raby to town to get some material. She told him, now the top is green, you just bring me back 5 yards of material. He did, he brought back purple. She put it on the quilt and she gave it to us at our wedding.
Linda's a good quilt.
Linda's
Yes,
a good
Linda's
quilter.
very gifted. I would say
She got your mama's sewing talent.
I
I didn't get my mama's sewing talent.
I've got her being quiet, child.
Right?
You tell them
Surely.
right on that
Surely.
video, you tell them a lie.
Yes.
I can't believe she done that on videotape.
I can.
Grandma always had a quilting in the wintertime.
That's the only time I quilt.
Because in the summer you got other things to do. In the wintertime you're up at night and you can be, and it's actually kind of soothing in a way to quilt and think about what you're doing and not think about what you're doing.
This is just one thing that the ladies did in the wintertime. They would go to, a lady would put a quilt in, she'd have them to come, and she'd have snacks for them. If it wasn't but a jelly biscuit. And they'd come, because of course Raby's mama used to quilt them. We added a room onto our house, or 3 rooms, and she used to put hers on the back porch. But of course the back porch was closed in. And she used to put hers on the back porch.
Well, he's got one that Mama made him before she passed. We had 13 quilts going on at one time when she was sick because she was going through her material, wanted to use as much as she could. And she wanted all the great grandbabies and grandbabies to have a quilt. And so we were at different stages of, making them when she passed.
We invite public people and people from the Roxborough community and outside the Roxborough community, like people from Burlington. I know Grandma has a couple of friends from Burlington that come down.
In Greenville.
In Greenville and all over North Carolina to come down and quilt with us. One of the things that I do is at school I'll hand out flyers for the Quilting Bee and I'll tell people about quilting and about our culture and stuff like that and how quilting helps us and what the quilts symbolize and just small things like that, just to try to put us out there and try to put the whole idea of quilting out there. We either offer to help or learn from what she's doing and use that on if we want to start a quilt or if we want to start just a little patch of quilt to start practicing and stuff like that. It's an everyday thing in our home.
I remember I would go under the quilt and help like all the older people and like stick the needle up and then they'll tell me where to put it.
I lap quilted. And this is for Cullen. The middle boy Timothy,
Yes.
this is for him. He goes into a big bed.
My name is Dorothy Stewart Yates. I am the chairperson of the Sappony Tribe. Our tribal council wanted to have an insignia that would replicate what our tribe means to us. So through our discussions as a tribal council, we came up with the following symbols to use on our insignia. At the top of the insignia are 7 stars. These 7 stars represent the 7 families. Our tribe has 7 family surnames that make up the body of the tribe. Each of these stars is representative for each of our families. We use the star because our Saponi family is very religious. We believe in God, and so we use the symbol of a heavenly body, the star, being a representative for each of the families, and put that at the top of our insignia. Next, you will see 3 arrowheads on the insignia. These are arrowheads that were used by the Saponi as their means of identification. You would either find them on a tattoo of the Braves or on their personal belongings. So we decided to use these 3 arrowheads as a means of identification for our Sappony tribe. Next, you will see the wheat, the tobacco, and the corn. This represents that our Saponi people were a farming people. And with the wheat and the corn, it was used for their own subsistence, to feed their animals, to use for food for themselves. And then the tobacco was used as a cash crop to purchase the items that the Saponi were not able to raise on their own. The 7 tied feathers underneath the wheat, the corn, and the tobacco represent the unification of our tribe. The 7 families are very close-knit. We work together as a united body, and it represents our community of the High Plains community. It doesn't matter whether you live within the community or not. You are tied together with this bind that's represented with the feathers being tied together. Our history of the Saponi being located here in Person County and southern Halifax County, Virginia, goes back to the early 1700s. On either side of the insignia are 2 signatures of the Saponi on the Treaty of 1677. The signature on the left is the one of the chief, and the signature on the right is the one of the young king. Our Saponi tribe is unique in many ways, one being the tightness of the relationships with the 7 families and the blood relationships that we have there. A lot of our crafts that we do may not be crafts that you don't hear of at other places, but these are crafts that our people will do and put their own uniqueness to the craft that's being done.
My name is Darian Glasscock. I'm part of the Martin, Talley, and Coleman family. Most of my artwork's pretty abstract, taking an object and changing it a little bit. My parents realized I liked painting, so they bought me an easel and bought me a whole bunch of professional brushes. I like acrylics. I tried oil-based paints. They're a little too hard to work with. Now I like house-based paints, so exterior, interior paints. I like using those. They seem to have a thicker composition when I'm painting, so it looks, to me, it blends better when I'm on the canvas. When you blend color, especially with sunsets, I don't really like brushes, so a lot of the times when I paint sunsets, I use my fingers. I find it easier to blend that way. Another thing would probably be adding detail. I usually like with fan brushes when I'm adding detail as far as like specks or in trees, adding the different textures in the leaves. I started doing it more, and in high school I painted in art classes. I also did props for the theater productions. I designed and painted a lot of those props for those productions. I do think it's important that Person County is aware of our art and culture. It's a huge part of the county. We are a tribe here in the county, the only tribe in the county. So I feel like our heritage probably has, it's, a part of the county's history. So the artwork and culture we bring is part of the history's culture and art. So I think it's a huge thing for them. My favorite painting is probably the one of the headdress. I really wanted for the background for different shades of red and orange and yellow to pop. So it took me a few times to get it down pat, but it's more of a abstract background with lines, and you can see the paint brush strokes on it. I really wanted to make sure I did that. I don't know, I liked how it came together. It represented, I guess, my tribe. My artwork is unique. I'm not one of those people that has a set theme with my artwork. It's usually pretty random. I do better with abstract. I know a lot of people have a certain theme they like to go with. I've never liked the idea of a theme because, I might like this, but I want to try this. I'm one that likes to try different things and seeing how they turn out. I have done it where I finished it and then I come back weeks later and I'm like, I don't really like that. I want to change that, so I'll change it again. So they're never really finished. Probably the hardest lesson would be not always the picture I had in my head was going to come out that way. That sometimes when painting, you're going to make mistakes. And it's usually easier to just go with the mistake than to start all over, because sometimes the mistake you make when you're painting or drawing actually turns out to be something really pretty. So that's probably one of my biggest lessons there. Art is personal as far as you're the one that creates it. It's using your emotions, things in your life, environment to create it. But I guess it is public as far as if you're showing people, they're getting to see inside of you. A lot of my paintings are just objects really, but the colors I use and stuff, they get to see more like into my head. What was I thinking? So I guess art is personal, but it can be, public as far as letting the public see into you, inside your mind, see what you're thinking. At camp, when I helped the kids with their artwork and stuff, when we did the crafts, a lot of them, they said they don't really like painting. And I'm like, well, try it. I mean, you might like it. Even with the string art, they were like, this is difficult. I'm like, you might like it. And then, as the days went on, they were like, oh, I really liked that. Some of them might not know that that's their thing unless somebody shows them. They might be their thing and it might not, but at least that exposure will help them in the long run.
Program in Person County schools, Title VI Indian Education. And so that's a federally funded program that offers like extracurricular activities to Native youth. And so this was one of the things that they requested was to do a ribbon skirt and ribbon shirt workshop. Yep.
In our tribe, we're represented by 3 arrows. That was how we proved we were Saponi and how we were traveled. So now we put our 3 arrowheads on the back of the shirt to represent and say, hey, I'm Saponi.
skirts are a traditional form of clothing for many American Indian tribes and cultures. We call it kind of pan-Indian, so it's not specific to one tribe or culture. But the reason why they're made out of what they're made of today is because of the textiles and woven materials that we have access to these days. So back before colonization, traditional clothing would have been made out of things like buckskin or leather, but with colonization and with access to things like manufacturing, we got woven materials. And then the ribbons, that was something that occurred with trade because they're mostly satin or silk ribbons. And so with colonization, they had silk and satin that was brought over, and we were able to incorporate that into our clothing. For me, ribbon skirts are linked to Saponi culture through quilting and sewing. I think it's a really important part of our culture, and I do use quilting cotton to make all of them as well. So learning how to sew and teaching others how to sew, I think, is how we integrate the ribbon skirts and Saponi culture. I think the importance of ribbon skirts and wearing ribbon skirts is accepting the fact that indigenous culture is okay and it's still here. I think it's a visible representation of that. It's a learning opportunity. Anytime somebody asks about the skirt that you're wearing, it's a chance to tell them about your tribe, who you are, that indigenous people are still here. So I think that's the biggest value, yeah.
I'm Martin Saniga. I'm a member of the Sappony Tribe here in Piedmont County, North Carolina. What we're doing here today is talking about songs and music, both traditional, so songs that date back hundreds, if not thousands of years in our community, and things that have been brought in more modernly, like powwow culture. They're brought in the 1960s and 70s, and the clothing and some of the dance styles that are a part of that. We're doing that with the Title VI Indian Education Program here in Piedmont County. So I think anytime you're dealing with music, it's an art form, you know. Social songs are distinctly here on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi. The two songs that we sang today, Shake the Bush and Pigeon, those are both from Sappony communities and other Eastern Siouan speaking or Southeastern Siouan speaking communities like Monacans and Okanichis that are found in Virginia and North Carolina. They're social, they're community songs that are danced in large groups. You could almost think of it like square or line dancing and like cowboy culture. Same idea here. It's songs where the entire community gets together and dances. Whether it's pigeon dance, whether it's shake the bush or alligator dance, they're all dances that are kind of meant to bring the community together. Ribbon shirts have their basis in historical trade shirts. That's kind of where ribbon shirts kind of has some of their origin, is in those kind of very first trade shirts that end up being brought in by those different English or different European colonists that are interacting with us. We can make art, we can make music that isn't purely defined by colonization. We have art forms that are older than colonization. We have music that is older than colonization that speaks to who we are definitively as a people and speaks to the way that we view the world.
I'm Emily Stewart Epps, and I was on the first council when we had the first council with Lindy Martin. I make baskets, I make jewelry, I make Christmas ornaments, and I enjoy doing them. But my mother always sewed. When we were growing up, she made all of our clothes. So I kept doing it when I got grown, and I made my own wedding outfit. Well, we were taught in school, too, by Sarah Poindexter, one of our teachers that we had in school. She taught us how to make aprons and blouses and skirts and things like that. Well, one of the things I do is a Christmas ornament, and it's done with styrofoam balls and 2x2 inch material with straight pins. So it's real simple to do, and it's relaxing, because you're just sitting in your chair doing it. So it's a relaxing art to do. I give a lot of them away. I don't sell them, I just give them away. I enjoy doing my baskets too, because I give those away for weddings or, for different parties and different showers and stuff like that. I put stuff in them and give them away. So I very seldom ever sell one. It's just something I enjoy doing, and some other people enjoy looking at it after I've done it. I do quilting, and I do the dream catchers and the bolos. I do those. I do the fans with the turkey feathers. And a lot of my dream catchers, my grandkids, as you might call them, has got chickens. So they go out and pick me up the chicken feathers. So a lot of my dream catchers have chicken feathers on them. And my nephew brings me turkey feathers. And peacock, we get peacock feathers too. I've got a friend of mine that has 3 or 4 peacocks. So we get the peacock feathers, the small ones, that's got the different colors on them. I've been doing it for about 30 years. I started with the baskets at the Senior Citizen Center. I went up there, and because I wanted to make an egg basket. We do all the weaving on them, and some of them are made out of gourds, and we punch the holes in the gourds, where we can put the weaving into the holes so that we can make a basket out of it. The hardest part is finding the reed and stuff that we need to make the baskets with. On the baskets, we have to color the reed. If we want it blue, you use blue dye. That takes a while to do because you have to boil the dye, then boil the reed in the dye, and then rinse the reed and make sure you get all the color out of it that's going to come out of it so it won't get on the people's hands when they start making the baskets. My mother was Hattie Stewart, and she used to tell us that, a dream catcher is something that lets your bad dreams go through, and it catches your good dreams, and in the morning, you remember your good dreams, but the bad dreams are gone. And they used to put them on the babies' cradles that they toted on their back. So when they went to sleep and they were dreaming, they didn't get to crying. Back years ago, they used strings from the inside the deer's hind legs, but now we use a wax thread called sinew, and that's what we make it out. And some of it's made out of crocheting yarn or embroidering thread. Some of them is made out of that. Some of them are made out of wire. Some of my jewelry that I make, a lot of the elderly people have given me the old jewelry that they used to have, and I've taken it apart and made different jewelry with it. If we could get a group together, the Sappony Tribe or anybody else that wanted to, whether it was from Roxborough or wherever, if they wanted to, I don't mind teaching them how to do something so it can continue to go on. I've got some grandnieces that would love to learn how. I'm hoping this winter I'll be able to teach them how to do some of it. I don't want it to quit because it's an art that I learned that not many people in the community know how to do it, or the Sappony Tribe, and I don't want it to quit. I want it to keep going.
My name is Paul Stewart. My mother, all the way back to my grandfather, always Indian. And I enjoy wood turning of bowls. I enjoy caning chairs. Well, I first took it up as basket weaving. It ain't just in and out. There's a pattern you got to go by. So then I learned how to do the chairs, and then I took it on my own with the antique chairs. I was a welder, and they inspected you well. That inspired me when I'd start doing my craft to be as near perfect as I could, because people look at it and they're either gonna say that I like it, or they're gonna tell somebody how bad it looked. This particular basket is much harder to weave. You don't have a wooden bottom. You have to weave the whole bottom from the beginning. So it would take you a long time. The handle is woven from the bottom as you do the bottom. It's one of those stave pieces that come up. Some of them is dyed different colors, but this particular one for the handle is much longer piece, so it comes up to make the handle. This basket here is a double stack basket. It is used to, like if you were going on a picnic, like homecoming or whatever it might be, where the church has a dinner. So that's a double stack, and it holds 2 pies or 2 bowls with vegetables in or whatever it might be. This is some of the caning material you use for antique chairs. You have to wet it because it's brittle when it's dry. It's got to be flexible. Once you wet it, you can work with it in that groove to get it down in there without it breaking. And once it dries, it's going to tighten up, because once you finish it and put glue in it, it ain't going to move. This bowl here is a beautiful bowl. It's made of solid walnut and solid maple, which both is hard to find. So a bowl like this, if you made a bowl like this, which is I made and the wife took it, she wants me to autograph it on the bottom, to her. This bowl right here, if you were to sell this bowl, you would have to get close to between $85 and $100 for it, because of the material that's in it. Bowls don't turn out good with soft wood. You need hardwood to make the bowl. But the most challenging part of the whole process is the inside. Turning the inside is a challenge. You got to be at all kind of angles, try to cut it. You got to be careful that the cutting knife don't grab, because you could get hurt. Well, I think the value of it would be to keep the heritage part going. So far as the Sappony Tribe, they didn't have the money to just go to the store and buy it, so they had to do their own work. And so I enjoy doing it. The most satisfying part in creating a bowl is the finished product. That is the most satisfying part. You can look back and be proud to show it to somebody. So you want it as perfect as possible, because you want people to enjoy looking at it, and with the craftsmanship and the quality of it, to be proud of it.
My name is Sheila Epps Wilson. I'm the granddaughter of Jewel and Ira Epps. My mother's name was Jean, and I'm her oldest daughter. Well, I got interested in photography when I went to a documentary class. They taught me that I could take pictures and that they could be pretty good. So with that knowledge and that confidence, I started taking pictures of our tribe and documenting the events that we had. And then I found out that I really wanted to capture memories. And that's why I work with the youth too, a lot, to get them confidence up in the arts. I just want to encourage them to know that they can do this. They don't have to be scared of a camera. They don't have to make it perfect. They just have to like what they take a picture of. And now with all the cameras, that on phones, it's not just for selfies. Well, I like to have them actually, print, because most of the time they don't hold pictures and print them anymore. Pick 5, pick 10, and then you know what you really like. When you care enough to print it now, then that means something to you. So that's one of the ways you can improve, and you can pass it on. I have a lot of children that are grown now that take pictures that I feel quite proud that I was the first one to risk my camera in their hands. Oh, it's so important to get that moment because the moments are gone. History changes every 5 minutes. The first quilting bee that I hosted in 2007, we had so many ladies here and gentlemen that have passed and that we missed terribly. And if we hadn't had that event and we hadn't captured those moments, it would have been lost, except for in our hearts. I think photography is really good for people that are introverts, that really stay back and watch. Because when you're standing back and watching, you see a lot that the people that are in it don't. How they're smiling, how they're touching each other's hands, or they're got their hand on their shoulder, or how they're talking to each other. Well, the barn especially is a pole barn, and it reminded me of my grandmother's cabin that she had, that we would run around the corner and we'd be playing hide and seek, and how you peek around the corner. And so I took my camera and kind of made an angle like that where I'm looking for my brother so he won't catch me. It was an event that the community had been doing for many, many years of making Brunswick stew and selling it and sharing it with the community. And so when I was here, it's just that I couldn't get a good angle unless I got down on my belly and captured, the picture that way. I took many pictures that day, and a lot of the elders were picking on me about getting down. Are you going to be able to get up, Sheila? And things like that. Yes, that's my mother. And there's probably 70, 71. She was the first woman in the machine shop. And when I was digitizing and wanted to show, I wanted to make sure that the hands were shown in there. And originally it wasn't shown, so I had to keep working with it till I got it like I wanted. And you could see her hands working in a male machine shop. Yes, sir. It's the path. That's my favorite. When it started snowing one Sunday morning, and I said, I'm going to run up there to the graveyard and get some pictures. And I was taking the tombstones and things, and then I just glanced and looked down the path, and I was like, that's what I want to get. I want the feeling of walking that path. When I captured that moment right there, I knew that I captured a place where my grandmother had walked, and my granddaddy had walked, and a lot of my ancestors, there's a lot of place around here that they walk, but I know for sure that they walked that path. And the snow just helped with it. It was just almost like the picture took itself. I didn't, do anything except for pick the camera up and take it. I'm almost my worst critic. And so when I'm taking that picture, that's not good enough. But then if I just save it and go back and look at it, well, it is pretty good. So don't be so hard when you look at your pictures, or even have someone else look at them. York Wilson was my instructor at the documentary workshop, and he looked at my pictures after the first quilting event, and he said, you need to put it on automatic, and you need to take the picture you want. Don't try to get the picture out of a big picture. You just want their hands, take a picture of their hands. That freed me to do that, with just that simple instruction. And I'm sure he don't remember telling me that, but he did. And I've enjoyed that freedom that he's given me. That moment is means a lot. And especially if I can catch somebody doing something, we they went back in there to get their third piece of pie, which was my piece of pie. I got to document that, but there's things like that just make it so much fun.
Mom's old picture book always bring a tear.
My name is Josie Martin. My dad is the youngest of 11 in the Martin Coleman clan, and I am the youngest of the youngest. I try not to limit myself to one media, but I do dabble in watercolor, acrylic, and my favorite is graphic design. My tribe has inspired me in the way that they take a lot of care and detail into what they do. My granny, whenever she made quilts, or my Aunt Sheila, she's not my aunt, but I call her my Aunt Sheila, whenever I see them making quilts, I can kind of see their intention when making it. So that really inspires me when I'm making my art, that same care and detail. Something that I think I have just learned is to go with your gut. If it doesn't look right, then you kind of work at it until it does look right, until you can go, okay, I'm done. But also, less is more, in the way that if I keep going and keep going and keep going, it might be too much. I like to use Photoshop and go through the different brush packs. I also really like working with vectors in Illustrator and playing with typography. If I draw lips, I like to do the line drawing of lips, or if it's an eye, I like to do line drawings of eyes. And then botanicals would be like leaves and flowers and the outlines of those. There's a lot of beauty in simplicity. The most beautiful things that you can create don't have to be complex. The white space can kind of speak for itself. The most difficult part is that technology is always like evolving. There's always going to be something new that you're going to learn. There's always going to be new software that's going to come up. The most satisfying thing about technology is that you can always learn and teach yourself. You can look up a tutorial or a YouTube video if you don't know how to do something. But also, it's just a cleaner version of what you can do in person. I think the way that I would encourage other people to start is to show them what they can do. The possibilities are kind of endless. When doing watercolor, if you are stacking the watercolors, you have to start with the lightest color in of the layers. You can't put light on top of dark, just because then it won't be visible anymore. The most challenging thing is you can't erase it, you can't undo it, you can't go over it, because watercolor is supposed to look light and airy. So you can't just keep painting over it until you get what you want. So before you start with watercolor, you kind of have to have this image in your mind of what you want it to look like and kind of have a plan and execute it. The types of tools I use are actually kind of funny. I just pick up whatever I have. I don't buy new tools very often. Sometimes I'll just look and see what I have in the craft box. You know, do I need a softer brush for watercolor? Do I need a harder brush for acrylics? The value of my art to the tribe, even though it's not traditional, I feel as though I am a dynamic person that also happens to be Indigenous. So it just shows that Indigenous people don't have to stick to one thing. They can, do whatever they feel like. And I feel as though the value that the art that other people do in my tribe just shows me how important our culture and history is. I would love to give back using my art for the tribe, just because it's my family. It's the way that I grew up. I enjoyed going to the tribal center and, going to my grandfather's house and just being in that area. And I would just love to see that community flourish and grow.
from the Stewart and Epps families. And I do beadwork. I've been beading for about 10 years. So beadwork is an art form that takes a really long time. It's really tedious. We use very small beads. A bigger project like this might take upwards of 10 to 12 hours, or earrings like this, maybe 3 to 4 hours. You bead on a stiff backing with needles and thread and small glass beads. And you literally just tack each one down basically. So you have to go bead by bead. So it's a pretty tedious and long process to do beadwork. Beadwork, before colonization, they would use materials like wood or stone or shell to form the beads. And then with colonization, it brought things like glass and metal. And also, as societies progressed, there was ways to cut the beads more uniformly. So the beads that we have now, you can just get online, you can get from a craft store, but they're more uniform. They're mostly glass. And you bead on a stiff surface, kind of like a stiffer felt. And then the centers that I use copper. I like to use things like shell. These, for example, they were made by another indigenous artist, so I like to use other indigenous artists for their work as well. Beadwork just really caught my eye. I thought it was really beautiful. I was kind of obsessed with it anytime I saw it. But I couldn't afford it at the time because it is an expensive art form because of the amount of time and labor it takes. So I decided, well, I'll make it myself. And so that's kind of where I started. A lot of my beadwork is just my creativity, but I try and incorporate aspects of our culture or even other tribes' cultures into beadwork. So, for example, I do a lot of copper work. So a couple of these are examples of earrings with copper in the middle. And this is because families within our tribe used to mine copper. And so that's something specific to our tribe. And then I also try and incorporate Eastern woodland designs into my beadwork. And then also I try and integrate pieces like this where it's part quilt, part beadwork, because quilting is so huge in our community and part of our culture. And then these earrings, for example, I have shell in them, and this shell was harvested from the Black River down in eastern North Carolina, which is the Coharie and Wakamasuan tribal territories. So I try and incorporate indigenous culture kind of into everything that I do, plus my creativity. Our people wear beadwork and we're out in Person County. People ask questions. They want to know what they're wearing because they are unique pieces that you don't usually see a lot. And I think that's a really great educational opportunity to tell people about our tribe and what we do. And we have a gallery every year up at the Kirby Theater that people can come to and see this type of art form. I think there's a lot of value in me learning this and then sharing and teaching to others. I think that's where the real value is because I want more of our tribal members to know how to do traditional work like this. So I feel like that's what my work can offer. More awareness can be accomplished by more of our people feeling comfortable wearing beadwork, same as ribbon skirts, being comfortable wearing it out in public. And that way we can educate others on it. So beadwork is an art form that's easily appropriated. And so if you're going to wear beadwork or bead, you have to educate yourself about it, where it comes from, who the artist is, what tribe they're from, and basically respect that form of art because it's a talent and it takes a lot of time to develop that talent. And so paying respect to the artist is always a good practice.
My name is Ronald K. Epps. My family is one of the family names with the tribe, and I make jewelry, medicine wheels, dream catchers, and some different leather work. I got interested just going to different powwows and just looking at what was made, and I've been doing it for probably about 11 years or longer now. When I was growing up, noticing my mother just making different things and quilting and making clothes and stuff like that. The most challenging part is making the medallions because of the size of the beads and how long, depends on how big it is and how long it takes to do it. On the necklaces, it probably takes about a week, depends on how intricate I want the design to be. For the chokers, it just depends on the size, how long I want to be, and putting the beads and stuff on it. The medicine wheel is considered to help spiritually, but it goes with the 4 points: the sky, water, earth, and air. I think it's very important to pass my skills on to the younger generation so that they won't lose the meaning of these things that belongs to our tribe.
My name is Patrick Stewart. I make dream catchers, and I'm Stewart, Epps, Martin, and Shepherd. That was back when my grandfather would sit on the porch and we would make grasshopper baskets and pop guns and so forth, and I always would just want to be like him. I've been doing dream catchers for 30 plus years or more. My grandfathers and grandmothers always told you think the positive things in life, not the negative. They always told you your name gonna go places you're not ever gonna go. So you try to represent yourself as a positive person, not the negativity. I enjoy the conversation with the families and the children and adults and the stories that they tell us while we're making the dream catchers. So we want to make sure that our children, our grandkids and so forth think about more of the positive things in life instead of the negative, because if you don't, you can the negativity makes you weak and positivity makes you whoever you want to be. And so when I make the dream catcher, I try to make sure they understand that don't think about the negative, think about positive. When they go to bed at nighttime, they had a bad day, and you change the way you're thinking when you look at the dream catcher. So you think about the positive, a sweet dream, a sweet memory. And so when you go to bed, dream sweet dreams. A lot of the kids come to me and, telling me that there's some Indian in them and so forth. So I started to talk to them about it, and they started to explain to me their grandfather may have been Cherokee or Maharan or Saponi. So when I make the dream catchers and I'm talking with the people, I get an understanding of how they're feeling, where they're coming from, their culture, whether it be Indian, whether it be other race and so forth. The way I make my dream catchers, it's all about the spider web. So I try to make it to represent what it's supposed to be. The feathers are the remaining, brush away the remaining of the bad dreams so that they actually won't do nothing but fall to the ground. We go out there and we find wild vine that grows in the woods, and we use real material called hemp and sinew. And then we sit in there and we weave it just like weaving a basket, similar, and so forth. It starts out just a little pattern, and then as you gather it to the middle, it becomes a dream catcher. I'll try to use real trade beads and the personalized stuff that I'm trying to give to someone. And so I use all real feathers. So I try to keep it all original as possible so that I can pass it down and show, this is the culture, this is what is real. Once I finish with the feathers are the last process of it, then I bless it and then I present it. We're not promised tomorrow. So if I give somebody a dream catcher, or if I help create a dream catcher with that person, my name represents with them. And so when they're talking about the dream catcher, they're going to say, hey, Patrick Stewart made this with me. And so my name is going to continue to carry on long after I'm dead and gone. Everybody should know where they came from, because those forefathers made it possible for us today to live like we are living today. I encourage people to sit around and talk with their grandparents and talk with their mothers and their fathers about their culture. I think a lot of people don't even know we exist. And so I'm trying to make a difference in there. If I go out there and I teach one person and tell them about our culture, then they'll understand that we are still here. I just want to make sure that when I make the dream catchers, I put my character to it and make sure that it represents me And also when I do it with the adults and the kids, I want to make sure that it represents them. A lot of I give away because if I can change one person, the way they're thinking, it makes a whole lot of difference in this world, and it blesses me.
My name is Jason Terry. The family linkage to the Sappony Tribe would be the Martin or Epps family. And the craft that I do is make custom turkey calls. Personally, what's the most satisfying to me about the craft of making calls is just using your hands to create something. It's an art form in itself. Each piece has got its own unique features, whether it's a knot hole or a grain or something that was put in the tree many, many years ago before I got a hold of it. And being able to just create a good sounding turkey call out of that is satisfying to me. Us as a tribe have hunted around Mayo Lake for years. I started out deer hunting with family and friends. I was drawn to turkey hunting by pretty much my great uncle, which is Roby Epps, and me and him has maintained that to now. The different type of woods I use in our turkey calls, when we first started out, we was pretty much hunting anything. I would have turned a dining room table into a turkey call to start with. A lot of the times I'm using domestic wood, which is more kind of walnut, cherry, maple. Sometimes we have made custom calls where people have cut trees off of their family land and made it specifically off of them from maybe their grandma's home place or something like that. We start with a wood blank, roughly 4x4. We square it up, drill some sound holes in it, put it on a lathe, turn it to our specifications. I bring it back to my home, put a hand finish on it. If somebody wants their name, pictures in it, then glue the surface of their preference in. Traditionally, turkey calls probably started out using slate, which could probably they probably got it anywhere. But most of the time, this is probably my favorite surface of all of them, hunting wise, would be a slate call. Slate's naturally found, is mined up north. And then we started transitioning into the second probably popular, due to the fact I can put the pictures in there, would be glass surface. And what we do is you can sand it, or what I prefer to do is etch it because it's neater and it lasts a little bit longer than the sanding does, and you don't have the residue. And then we can have a crystal surface, which is very much like glass, it's just higher pitched. And then probably ceramic would be my next one. And it's very low maintenance. Water really don't bother it. It bothers the striker, but it don't bother the surface that much. For the example, this one, we would have the wood part, which is the actual pot, and you have sound holes in it. And then you have the surface that can be changed to slate or glass, and it's glued into the top. And internally, you have a smaller version, which is the actual sound board inside the call that produces your two-tone yelp that a hen turkey does. And then you have what we call a striker, which is, ours is a 2-piece. Sometimes you'll have a 1-piece depending on your call maker, and that creates your pot and your striker. A basic cluck, you just take the call and put it here and you just bring it to you and then just pop it. And they make these in a variety of sound levels as they're going along the day, feeding, talking to one another. A purr would be a content call that a hen does. And then you have a basic hen yelp. And then you have excited clucks, or cutting is what's called in turkey hunting, is to pass my craft to other tribe members especially if my two daughters would take it up, I would love it. First, my passion would be just to be able to make a call that I actually fooled the turkey into coming when we first started. Now, I enjoy seeing the customer's face when I'm able to hand them their own personal call that was made specifically for them. Or they send me pictures of their successful hunts with their kids or family members and stuff. Each call is unique in its own way, whether it be wood grain or whether it be for a specific thing the customer requests. If I could put dates, Bible verses, pictures, turkey tracks with a wood burner, and stuff like that. Whatever they want to make their call theirs and unique to them. Most of them not going to be the same.
My name is Cole Powers, and I'm a proud member of the Sappony Tribe with the Epps family. The art I create is something that's just, I like nature. I like the depth that nature gives me and the shadows that I can create with nature. Shadows is top 5 important things in a painting. If a painting doesn't have shadows, it looks like a piece of paper, in my opinion. And I like how I don't have to paint according to nature, so I can paint, whenever I can paint towards, if I want to lean towards a sunny, bright day on a dark night. If it's a pretty sunset, I'll take a picture of the sunset and go from there. Or, if I see a deer in a field, I'll take a picture of the deer and then go from there. It's more so what I want the painting to look like. So if I'm feeling, sad that day and I start to paint, then my paintings will be a little bit more darker, a little bit more, gray and purple and a little black. If I'm feeling, joyful and happy, they'll turn out to be sunny and orange and yellow and bright colors that really just pop out of the painting itself. The viewer is one of the most important people. If I'm painting towards an audience that is sad and, wants to see the painting to express themselves, if that makes sense, then, I always try to put into colors what I think that they would like. Well, I did take art lessons for 2 or 3 years, and throughout high school I painted with our art teacher. But other than that, it's been mostly freehand stuff. The most challenging part is putting it on paper. Thinking about it and visualizing it is all easy, but getting it from my hand to the portrait to the canvas is the hardest part. Paint with emotion and paint with feeling. You could be a robot and paint. And you'd be able to, let's put it this way, if me and a robot were sitting beside each other and I painted a piece and he painted the same as that piece, you'd be able to tell who was which, because that robot doesn't have emotion. You can tell through emotion. It's extremely important to pass that on. The Saponi Youth Heritage Camp that we host almost every year. And in that Heritage Youth Camp, I feel like I can really connect with the kids and show them what painting does for you and how to paint. My grandmother has had a very big influence on me with my painting. She's taught me how to take my emotions and put them into my painting. The materials I use are acrylics. They're not water-based, they're gel-based, so that whenever they go from brush to canvas, it looks, in my opinion, more smooth. I feel like it gives it more of a shadowy look and less watery, if that makes sense. I feel like I can spread and shadow and outline with acrylic way better than I can any other paint. And the brushes that I use are always angled brushes, because those brushes, I feel like, create a better line in my paint. And I'll use a sponge occasionally on trees and stuff like that, but it's mostly angled brushes. I feel like this is my favorite painting because it really portrays the message I'm trying to give when I paint. I like the little details in it, with the hat being green and the blue shirt and stuff like that. I feel like this painting shows others that it's okay to have a bad background. When they see this photo, I want them to see that this house right here stands out from the rest of the things, and that it's okay to be different, really, because I know that me being a Native American, I've experienced a lot of stereotypical comments and stuff like that. And I'm starting to learn that it's okay to step out and be who I am. I think this painting is just really bright.
My name is Lena Epps Brooker. I was born in Lumberton, North Carolina, grew up in Robeson County. My parents were Frank Howard Epps, who was Saponi, and my mother was Grace Smith Epps, a Lumbee from Robeson County. I did not grow up in High Plains, but a part of my heart has always been in High Plains because my father loved his people. My parents molded me into who I am. They gave me the tools to live fully and with hope. My book is called Hot Dogs on the Road. And the reason for that title is so that my children, our children, and for my grandsons would understand not only the facts of discrimination, but the feelings and how that impacted me personally. I have never done nonfiction, but I've been told I'm a storyteller. But what I've come to understand is that for many people, Native Americans, there are people who are storytellers. And that's the way we keep our history alive. Stories are important to our culture. They remind us of what's important. They remind us of what not to be. And some of them are just funny. Well, definitely I started out with a pencil and a yellow pad, and then that moved sometimes to ballpoint because I would write so fast and so lightly that I couldn't see the pencil. My thoughts would come and I would think that I was getting them down very clearly, and then I would look at them and go like, what is this? If you're storytelling, my advice is to write the story as it happened in your voice, and then go back and have some editing. Self-editing is hard, but it's necessary. And I think that if you need help on things like grammar, punctuation, you go find somebody who can teach you that. I think it's really important if it's a story about that is nonfiction, that you get the facts right. And I think you also need to remember if it's includes other people, how this may impact them. You need to be very sensitive. You can tell an incident without naming someone and get your point across. The person who influenced me the most, persons who influenced me the most from the Sappony Tribe were my grandparents and then my Aunt Lois. My grandparents lived what most would consider a hard life. They never complained. They were at peace. They were the most peaceful people I've ever known. And then their daughter, Lois, had been sort of a trailblazer of her own. She also helped me understand that our way was one of simplicity, of peace, of respecting other people, even if you disagreed with them. She taught me to know that I had gifts that nobody else had, and that I could choose to use them or not. I'm inspired, I've always been inspired by God's creation. All I have to do is look around and listen And I'm reminded of the smallness of humankind and the largeness of the Creator. And I write about that. I think that it would be wonderful to encourage people from the time they're very young to write. And I think the more things that are recorded from a child's viewpoint all the way through adulthood is a wonderful thing, because if they're kept, a person can look back and say, oh, this is what interested me when I was 8, or this is what hurt me or confused me when I was 10. And I've always believed in speaking out for those things that are important to me. And so writing allows me to do that.
I'm Callie Powers, and I'm related to the Epps family. My favorite subject to paint is usually the 3 arrows or sunset. For some reason, it just reminds me of my mom and dad and my family, and the 3 arrows just reminds me that I'm Native American and that the 3 arrows are very important to us. I started paying attention to painting when I was like 9, 10 maybe. I really started to make sure to put what I actually wanted on the canvas and not just scribble. Usually if I'm painting on canvas, I try and take a pencil and lightly draw out my sketch, because if I do it darkly, and then the colored pencil or the penciled lines will come through the paint. I try to draw lightly, then I try and with a black paint or whatever color I want to paint that sketch with, I go over it with whatever color, and then I try and do the background. On the 3 arrow painting, I used hot glue to outline or do these arrows, and you can see that some parts are thinner because I didn't have enough glue on there, and some arrows are bigger and some arrows are smaller. That's just how the hot glue wanted to work, and I made sure that they were kind of blending in a little bit. And then after I was done painting, I made sure I took the hot glue off, peeled it all off, so that the hot glue on there wouldn't look like it was messed up or anything. I would love to take more classes for art or any type of arts.
The arts and crafts of the Saponi are not only creative expressions, but links to their culture and community. They are personal, but not private. Often the finished art is shared as gifts to others. Skills are passed on to all those who have a heart to learn, young and old alike. Stories told through the art can be a moment in time, a window in the heart of the artist, or the extension of a family legacy. We never know how and when a person's creation will touch someone. From quilting and handcrafts like woodwork, jewelry making and beading, to painting and drawing, the Saponi have not only preserved their art, but have cultivated a tribal appreciation that has flowed into the Person County culture to enrich us all. Throughout the many artistic expressions seen among the Saponi, their attention to detail, dedication to the craft, and the value they place on their culture shows through. If every piece of art is a story, then Person County has much to learn and appreciate about their Saponi neighbors.